Hello and welcome to the Coaching for Self-Belief podcast with Andy and Pete. So Andy, what have you got for us this week?
Hi Pete, yeah, well, I've got something I'd like to share with you, and it's around the player's desire to play the game, to want to stay in the game, to want to learn and enjoy what they're doing. So I'm coaching a couple of children, ages 11 and 9, at table tennis. I've now moved to coaching them at their home venue where they've got a table in the garden, and I've been coaching them for 2 months, but it's got to the stage now where, as I'm walking up the road, because I only live 50 doors up the road, the kids are waiting for me to come along, and they're excited. And they've told me when the stone's at the door, the side gate door, that I can come straight through. So they're really keen, and it got me wondering about this desire to play. And I'll give you an example of how the desire played out in a lesson a couple of weeks ago. So I'm coaching the 9-year-old, James, and it started off with a conversation around the backhand. And I said to him, "Oh, do you remember the backhands that I was hitting with your dad last week?" And he said, "Yeah." And he started showing me. So I quickly got on the table and started rallying with him. So we're getting the ball going backwards and forwards, and he's showing me the backhand. And he got really excited about it. And he then went to the forehand side with his bat, and he said to me, "Is there anything like that on the forehand I can do?" And I've never, as a coach, had that experience, that desire to want to learn, as he showed in that instance. And I said, "Well, of course there is. Yeah, you can do the forehand topspin, can't you? That's similar to the backhand topspin." And he went, "Yeah." And he started hitting forehand topspins. And then it got me wondering on the way home, why is there so much desire within these two children to want to play? And we can tick the box that Matthew Syed talks about of creating the environment, where all the players are interested in the same thing, and it can push things along. But what I was adding to the sessions was I was helping the children to learn in a way where they weren't necessarily being taught technique. I would talk about, this is what you do if you want to hit a topspin forehand. But then we would go into awareness exercises. So it might be, for example, just tell me if you see the label on the ball as it comes over. And James would be going, "Yes, no, no," and he'd be hitting the ball without knowing he's hitting the ball. And then I might ask him, "How far did you follow through, James?" And he would say, "Oh, halfway to my head, halfway to my head." And he was having fun, and there was no judgment at all. And so what I think I created through this way of being with him was an enjoyable learning environment. And I think this is what the LTA would probably be interested in terms of retaining players, because they lose a lot of players, according to the research. But if you've got a strong desire to do anything, you're going to stay in the game. No question about that.
So it's I think everybody would agree that if we can make learning fun, that's an important thing.
Yeah.
The question is how.
Yes.
And the skills that we've learned over the years, the non-directive skills, the philosophy of the inner game, the non-judgment, as you spoke about. If coaches are highly skilled at creating a non-judgment atmosphere, that in itself is more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd been my intention from the outset when I met this family, and even the dad would stand at the back and he'd be smiling and taking pictures. There was no pressure to accelerate learning. It was going to happen naturally, just by paying attention to these various things. And we all knew it in this little environment. We kind of knew it.
How does learning happen? And it happens with non-judgment and awareness and trust that your body and your mind can learn that stuff. There's all these, the three basic ingredients that Tim Galway came up with in the Inner Game books. It's awareness, choice, and trust. And if that's the backbone of your coaching environment, then fun comes out of it. So very specific skills to foster as a coach that can make it more fun. Without I imagine, if you were to ask some people, how do you make learning fun? They get a picture of oh, I need to be Coco the clown and put a funny costume on and tell lots of jokes.
Yeah.
And there's other ways.
Yeah.
Not that we're not saying don't ever tell jokes or anything. That's one way to make it fun, but really the real fun of learning is that trust in yourself, just having a go at something, not worrying too much about it, non-judgment, and noticing stuff, and then there's something new, and I can do this now, and that's then the motivator, those feelings. And that coaches can play a large part in creating that, without even saying much. It's how you are as a coach when someone has a go at something. And then there's the other side of it. It's the agenda side of it, and the non-directive coaching side of it. That if you can prioritize pulling from the player's interest rather than having very set agenda of your own that you have to stick to.
Yeah.
Which
So
is the
again,
story
saying
that you told. Yeah.
When the boy said, "Oh, is there anything on this side?" Because he was thoroughly immersed in his own learning and enjoying it.
Yeah.
But in previous weeks, I'd also done a bit of non-directive and directive. But I can remember a non-directive example where the girl said to me after I said, "What are you noticing?" when she's trying to hit a forehand topspin, she said, "I'm noticing that I'm scraping the ball." And I said, "Oh, just tell me, how much do you notice you're scraping it?" And then she hit one. She said, "Oh, about a 6." And then she did another one, and she said, "Oh, I noticed that was about an 8." So I was following her agenda there, and that was non-directive. But it's always there's always a mixture of both going on, depending on.
Of course, that's the coaching dance. Do I push or do I pull? And it's I guess the skill of feeling okay that it's all right to jump trains.
Yes, absolutely.
That we've got a way that the session seems to be going. I've got my idea, technically what I want to help the player with. That's another direction that feels important to me. But then there's the risk of, if I force that against where their interest has gone, that could demotivate them. That could shut down their fun and enjoyment.
Yeah.
So
always getting
it's just
information from.
being
Always getting
open, isn't
information.
it? Being open to jumping trains.
Yeah,
Even if it's just for a few minutes. Oh, yeah, sure, let's explore that for a little bit, and then we can come back to where we were heading at the beginning.
absolutely. Yeah. And it is just watching the children or the adults that you're coaching for their experience, for their body language, for what they say, and just be with that. And yes, you've got something going on inside yourself, but what's most important for me is to be paying attention to what's going on at the other end and seeing if I can respond appropriately.
So I'd also say that the fact that you can't undervalue the fact that feeling valued is important.
That's right.
That's such a big thing, and that if we have a good skill set around asking questions, when kids or adults are asked questions, they're involved, they feel valued, and that's fun as well. So that's another ingredient to the motivation.
Absolutely. And I guess my wrap up for this would be patient and create an environment where we've said this lots of time. The learning is fun. I'd say it's more about enjoying the learning process. Fun can be like Coco the clown, like you mentioned, but make the learning process enjoyable, and that will create the desire. And there's a few ways to do that. As we've mentioned, create a non-judgmental environment.
Yep.
Don't teach so much, but rather focus on the learning. How can I help this person learn, as opposed to teach them? And we've suggested a few ideas, you know, with noticing the label on the ball or bounce here. So that's what I would say.
Yep. And I think it's just interesting to make that connection, that fun has to do with is that it's enjoyable learning, and that there are some specific skills here that coaches can you know, go away and practice, and that's creating a non-judgmental environment, raising awareness with good questions, and that helps people feel involved and feel valued, and that makes it more fun. And then you know, wrapping it all up and just in an environment that means that you can switch to another train and make it creative in that way. That's fun too. That you don't have to stick to your plan, that you can be flexible, and that's fun.
So work towards that. Work towards feeling comfortable with being flexible, and just see what happens. Just, you know, go with your gut instinct. Try things out. Definitely, yeah.
So very good. So we hope you enjoyed that, and have some fun making it fun with some specific skills.
Yeah. See you all next time.